Welcome back. So this is what I want you to do for your warm-up. I want you to take around 5 minutes and just go ahead and factor the following trinomials. There we go. So now let's see, what do we have? So for the first one, I'm looking for two numbers that add up to 20 multiplied to 100. So now I'm thinking that this would be x plus 10 times x plus 10. There we go. And then I can simplify this a little further because I noticed that I'm multiplying the same binomial by itself. So this would be equal to x plus 10, that quantity squared. And now for the second one, I want to know two numbers that add up to -6 and multiply to +10. Because I don't have two numbers that jump into my head, I'm going to go ahead and set up this equation equal to 0. And then I'm just going to go ahead and solve it, see what x values do I get. So this, I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides, so this will be minus 10, minus 10. There we go. So now we have that x squared minus 6x is going to be equal to -10. And I kind of switched the order just because I like to have my x's on my left hand side. So now let's see. So now I want to make this left hand side, I want to make it to a perfect square. So I'm going to take that -6, I'm going to divide it by 2, and then I'm going to multiply that number by itself. So -6 divided by 2 is -3. -3 times -3 is +9. So now we have that x squared minus 6x plus 9 is going to be equal to -10 plus 9. There you go. So now I added a 9 to both sides. So now my left hand side, I can factor that to be x minus 3, that quantity squared, and my right hand side is just going to be -1. There we go. So now I'm going to take this square root on both sides. So that will give me that x minus 3 is going to be equal to the positive or negative square root of -1. And now I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So this will be plus 3 plus 3. So now we have that x is going to be equal to 3 plus or minus the square root of -1. There you go. So now that we know how to complete the square, we're going to write the following problems. We're going to write them in Vertex form. So I want you to write this down, and then we're going to go ahead and do them all. So for the first one, I have that y is equal to x squared plus 16x plus 71. So now, what I want to do, I want to subtract this 71 on both sides. So minus 16x. So now, I want to make the right hand side, I want to make it to a perfect square. So 16 divided by 2 is going to be 8. 8 plus 8 times 8 is going to be 64. So now we are going to add 64 on both sides. So this will be y. I know that this will be y. Negative 71 plus 64, that's going to be -7. And this will be equal to, now x squared plus 16x plus 64, I can factor that out to be x plus 8, that quantity squared. There you go. Equals x plus 8, that quantity squared, plus 7. And there we go. So I just wrote this in, and we went from standard to vertex form. For problem number 2, we'll be doing something similar. So now I'm going to add the 5 on both sides. So 5 is going to be equal to x squared minus 2x. There we go. So now I want to make the right hand side, I want to make into a perfect square. So negative 2 divided by 2 is going to be negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is going to be positive 1. So now this will be y plus 5 plus 1. And that's going to be equal to x squared minus 2x plus 1. There we go. So now we can factor the left hand side, the right hand side. So this would be y plus 6 is going to be equal to x minus 1, that quantity squared. There we go. So we give you y equals x minus 1, that quantity squared, minus 6. And there we go. For the next one, we have negative x squared minus 14x minus 59. So the first thing that I want to do, I'm going to factor out a negative. So this will be better. So now I'm going to divide by negative 1 on both sides. X plus 59. There we go. So now I'm going to subtract 59 to both sides. Because again, I want to make the right hand side, I want to make into a perfect square. I want to take the 14 divided by 2, which would be 7. 7 times 7 is going to be 49. So now I'm going to add 49 to both sides. So this will be minus y minus 59 plus 49. That'll be equal to x squared plus 14x plus 49. There we go. So now we have the negative y minus 10 is going to be equal to x plus 7, that quantity squared. Okay. So now I'm going to add the 10 on both sides. So there we go. So now I'm going to divide by negative 1 on both sides. And there we go. Now, for the next one, this is what I want to do. I'm going to subtract 170 from both sides. I want to divide by 2 on both sides, just so I can work with smaller numbers. So divide by 2 on both sides, so this would be y. Again, I want to make the right hand side, I want to make it to a perfect square, so 18 divided by 2 is going to be 9. 9 times 9 is going to be 81. So I'm going to add 81 to both sides. So let's simplify this a little further. We have y squared, and then negative 85 plus 81 is going to be negative 4. And now x squared plus 18x plus 81, I can factor out to be x plus 9, that quantity squared. There we go. So now I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Because I want to solve for y, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. There we go. I'm going to start doing the same process. So I'm going to subtract 46 from both sides. So this will be y. I want to turn the right hand side into a perfect square. So I'm going to take that 12. I'm going to divide by 2. It will be negative 6. Negative 6 times negative 6 is going to be positive 36. So this would be y minus 46 plus 36. equals to x squared minus 12x plus 36. We have that y, negative 46 plus 36 is going to be negative 10, and this will be equal to x minus 6, that quantity squared. And then for your last step, we're going to add 10 to both sides. And there we go. And last but not least, so for this one, it's missing your C value. So that's interesting. So because I want to make the right hand side, I want to make it to a perfect square, I'm going to take 4 divided by 2. It's going to be 2. 2 times 2 is going to be 4. So now I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So my right hand side is a perfect square, so I can factor that one out. So this would be y plus 4 is going to be equal to x plus 2, that quantity squared. And because I want to solve for y, I'm going to subtract 4 to both sides. So this will be 4. And there we go. So I tried to do like most of the cases that you encounter. So if you ever see any of the problems on the homework or as you move forward, you can use this kind of problems as reference. Now, why are we writing the quadratic functions into vertex form? Well, it's because it will give us the vertex of our graph. So we know that the vertex form will look something like f of x equals a times the quantity of x minus h, that quantity squared, plus k, where hk is the vertex of your parabola, and x equals h is your axis of symmetry. So when you start working with bigger numbers, graphing is not the most efficient way of doing it. So just kind of like rewriting your quadratic, it will help you to kind of like find out what will be the vertex of it. Let's do one problem that we have done before. So for that, this one, we got to find the axis of symmetry, the y-intercept, and the x-intercept. So let's see. So we're going to take this function, and I'm going to write it in vertex form. Let's see. Our y-intercept is really easy because our y-intercept, there we go. Our y-intercept is just going to be 6, right? So now our vertex is going to be negative 5/2 and negative 1/4. And then the x-intercepts, we can go back to factoring. So we have, it was x squared plus 5x plus 6. There we go. So now we want to know when the function is equal to 0. So I just want to factor this out. So this would be x plus 2, x plus 3. That's equal to 0. Which then from like doing it from before, you know that your x-intercept is going to be negative 2, 0, and negative 3, 0. Your y-intercept is going to be 0, 6. Axis of symmetry. Well, your axis of symmetry is actually easy because it's going to be negative 5/2, which gives you a vertex of negative 5/2, negative 1/4. And there we go. So those are all the key points of your graph. And let's see, maybe we might have one more. Since your linear coefficient is positive, you know that your graph is going to open upwards. Now, let's see if we can do another one. So we have x squared plus 6x minus 27. My y-intercept, looking at the standard form is a little easier because now I know that my y-intercept will be 0, negative 27, negative 3, and because I wrote it in vertex form, I know that my y value is going to be negative 36. There we go. I might be passing off the homework, and then again, you'll be graded on the number of steps that you do, and then that's it. And then I'll see you guys next time.